We are going to begin the memorial service for Mrs. Marketa Wendrow. If you have a cell phone, I'd ask you kindly to place it in the silent mode at this time or turn it completely off. I'd also like to welcome everybody via live stream. On behalf of the family, thank you for attending as well. And speaking of live streaming, Dr. Mark Slutsky will be officiating the service via live stream. You'll be able to see him on the screens. We're going to begin right now.
As we come here to mourn the loss, mother, grandmother, relative, and friend, we also come to honor the life of a woman who in some ways we all know in the same way. Her charm, her wit, her humble determination, her capacity to demonstrate impeccable taste and calmness, her ability to be both running the catering in the back room and being a guest or the host of the party in the front. Each one of us has shared life with her in that way. And yet, as we honor her memory and honor her life and really learn from it and incorporate who she was into us so that she lives as we experience her in all we do, we realize that her story was so much more, so many levels more, so much of the human struggle. The psalmist, with his words, Gam ki ela b'getz hamavet, says, though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we will not be afraid. From a beginning in Czechoslovakia, through a new life in Brazil, an experience coming to the United States with Bernie and living in California, and eventually settling in Highland Park, developing 2 careers, bringing up 3 children, and battling cancer and triumphing several times. We can come to learn and appreciate the endurance, the strength, the qualities that gave her the determination that I think manifests so clearly in her poise and her calmness. Each of us, I know, will share stories of her in the time and the days ahead. But today, we'll begin the process of honoring her and really helping the family to comfort itself and help all of us to comfort ourselves with this loss by hearing her story. So we'll begin with Richard, Andrea, and Michael speaking and telling us their memories of their mother.
I'm going off the cuff here. Thank you all for coming. My mom meant a lot to a lot of you and to us. I'm glad I got to spend the last 5 weeks with her. It was hard, but I wouldn't trade it for everything in the world. I did stuff I never thought I could do, but it was my mom, so I did it. I got up at 2 in the morning for her, then again at 4 in the morning, and then again at 8 in the morning. All through it, she was battling, determined, but unfortunately it didn't work out for her this time. That's it. That's all I can say. Appreciate y'all for coming, and thank you.
You guys all have wonderful stories and memories of my mom. And I could tell a lot of stories, but instead, I'm going to read a letter that someone sent my mom, and then also a note that my dearest friend sent me. Life is short, and I am missing you so much. In the pool, at the dining table, at Elaine's, at the canasta table. Your calls. Can you come right now and play mahjong? I would race home from whatever errand I was on to join our table of three. Such fun. I knew you not long enough, but long enough to know that you were class personified and your way was the best way, always. Such a short time to know a friend, but you were always fine and great, and sometimes a little bossy, but we loved you and laughed. Kind and thoughtful and tough when you had to be. How I miss your constant happy and carefree manner. You were one in a million, Etta, and I will always remember your too short friendship. Always on target, always ready to join, always ready to say, this needs a little more spice. So many loved and cared about you, I among them. Teardrops are falling on my head, I love you. That was from her friend Sally in Florida. It's Friday night in heaven. There is a huge table of friends gathered, with Bernie and Etta acting as hosts. Cocktail hour was stupendous, with family and friends greeting their dear Etta. Then Etta fed everyone, of course. And now they're spending the rest of the evening regaling each other with memories of their best times together, laughing their heads off, and toasting each other for lives well lived. Then Bernie and Etta will happily retire to their beautiful cloud. Sorry. The one with the sign that says, "Welcome to the Wendrows." For a wonderful time. Stop by anytime. It just sums up my mom, everything that I could have said. But I also want to thank some very important people. From Journey Care, her nurse Marianne, and Frances, her wonderful aide. And from Home Watch caregivers, Grace and Rokaya, and especially Rich, because we could not have gone the last 6 weeks without you. And we'll all miss her terribly. Thank you for coming.
First, I want to thank everybody for coming here. I really appreciate it, and all of you have shared a little bit of your memory with her as we were coming in. I also want to thank my brother and sister who spent a lot of time over the last several weeks taking care of my mom. That meant a lot to her, and it meant a lot to me, and so I really appreciate that. I want to share a few things with you that I remembered. Kind of wrote them down today, so give me a moment. When I first met my mom, I think I cried or screamed. I'm not sure which, it was a long time ago. But that was the first moment that we met. And then, I clearly remember a moment when I was a kid. It was summer in California. We lived down the street from this canyon, and it was called Giant Canyon because we all, as the kids, thought that it looked like a giant had fallen backwards. We were kind of not allowed to go into the canyon, but, we did it anyway. And one day, I ended up slipping and landed butt first into cactus. So the challenge was I couldn't get out of there and kind of blame it on some cactus outside of the canyon. A couple of my friends ran off to get my mom, and she came down there. And with perseverance, she plucked every thorn out of my butt. And, I knew at that moment my mom always had my back. There was another thing. So you all remember my mom from a catering perspective and all the wonderful food. But there's one meal that I always remember, and it always signified that we would have a babysitter, and it meant that I could see movies that my parents wouldn't let me see. Now, we only had like 3 or 4 channels, and so there's one channel always had the monster movies. And as much as it scared the crap out of me, the babysitter would let us. But the meal that always signified this was a fabulous one. Hot dog slices in a mix of onion, peppers, and spaghetti sauce along with spaghetti. And when I saw my mom making it, I knew that that was for us because my mom and dad wouldn't eat that, but we did. Fortunately for all of you, it did not make the catering cut. When I moved to California, I was a couple hours earlier, and one of the things that I always got was a phone call to tell me that Buddy Hackett was going to be on Johnny Carson, because she knew I loved Buddy Hackett, she loved Buddy Hackett. And that was a lot of fun that she would reach out. So she always made sure that I knew when he was on. I saw him live, and believe me, he is much raunchier in live than he was on television. She also had this saying, and she had a few of them, but this is one that's always kind of stuck with me. She used to talk about how when you went to visit somebody, you didn't spend more than 3 days, because it was sort of like fish. After 3 days, it just kind of got a little old. And then we had grandchildren for her. And that saying went out the door. So she was very good at kind of adjusting her perspective, because when we had these 4 kids, it meant a lot to her, and she always wanted to come and see them. It meant a lot to me. She was a great mom, she was a great grandmother, and she was a great friend. We will all miss her. I will miss her.
Michael, you just gave me another way to think of your mother. The next time I see Buddy Hackett shooting the duck, I'll feel like I'm experiencing it again with her. The story of Etta's life is one that's truly dramatic in its struggle. She was born to a well-off Catholic family in Prague. Her father was involved in the resistance, and he helped rescue Jews and bring them out of the ghetto. When the communists took over in 1948, he was considered a dangerous independent thinker, and they left the country after 11 years of Etta's life. And in so many ways, her life seemed to have a hidden under the surface pattern. 11 years in Prague, and then 11 years in Brazil, where she experienced a new language, a new culture, and an opportunity to be at boarding school and only see her family on weekends. But she learned, and at an English-speaking sports club, she met young engineer Bernie, who was down there. And after that 11 years, they moved to California, where she spent 11 years as well. In Highland Park, where they settled, she became involved in the community. She became a teacher of cooking, and that's how she got into the catering business. Someone asked her to make a dinner for them, and it became a business that didn't advertise, didn't work, but was really a continuation of her love and her spirit of working with people. So her clients were her friends, and the parties she threw and the parties that they threw had a similar warm, friendly feeling. And nothing drew people more than, of course, her desserts. I got to know her many years ago at Eitz Chaim, where she and Bernie would sit together in the front row in the midst of the chaos of our community, where people could often be quite vociferous expressing their points of view. They were this calm, quiet, loving couple, taking it in. But in conversation, you could appreciate how much they thought about what they were experiencing and the many ideas that they had. She faced every one of those challenges of changing life, having new experiences, seeing new places, adjusting to new environments with a stability and a calmness. She faced cancer with a stillness and a calmness and a determination that allowed her twice to succeed in beating it. Recently, about the beginning of the year when she was diagnosed, she faced these days with tremendous equanimity and calm and interest. It was important to her that her bed look outside so she could stay connected to the world, even as she couldn't be actively a part of it. Anyone who knew her was intrigued by the fact that she could connect with where you were, but also add a perspective and a thought and a stimulating idea that would make it not just enjoyable, but provocative to be with her. Everything she did was in this style. Everything she did was to bring comfort to other people. Everything she did was to make the vicissitudes of life and the challenges of life and the uncertainties and the stresses be more comfortable. That's the way she acted with her children, her grandchildren, and in the last years when Bernie needed her caregiving, she provided it to him in the same way. She had the series of 311s, so it's not surprising that on the 86th day, in the peacefulness of her home, she was gathered to her ancestors on that 86th birthday. And as we mourn her, I think there's a lesson that comes to all of us, that a person who shows calm, who has the ability to use their own capacities to get past what would be the most challenging struggles and the worst conditions of the world. Living through war-torn, Nazi-occupied Czechoslovakia, changing your identity, being loyal to the traditions of your family while adopting the new traditions of your new family and becoming an active part of the Jewish community are all the steps that Etta made so much a normal part of her life. That's why I felt a special joy in seeing her. That's why in our community, we felt a special joy when she would join us, and especially in these last holidays when she came to services with Ari. And so today, we realize that this woman who did so much, who made sure that everyone was so well fed, who made sure that everyone was made so comfortable, now is at peace with the dignity and the serenity that she made happen throughout her life. The only memorial prayer we have in Judaism is the El Melech Rachamim. This prayer really says that the peace in the heavens that we want from Etta comes from our acts on earth, the charity we do, the goodness we do for other people, the nurturing we give, the relief we bring to others, the helping of those who are in need. Those are the qualities, those are the acts that we can do in her honor, in her memory, that in the words of the ancient liturgists, give her peace in the heavens. So please rise as I'll recite the El Mole Rachamim, followed by the Kaddish. El Mole Rachamim, Shochein V'mromim, Hamatzei Menucha Nachana, Tachat Kanfei Ashchina, V'amalot Kedoshim Utacharim, V'zohar Harakia, Maschirim, Et Nishmat, Eta Baravram V'sara, Shelcha Leolama, V'avor Shednevut Staka Biad Haskibrat Nishmata, V'ganeden Tehei Menuchata, V'chein Bala Rachamim Yisterecha, V'serer Kanafav Leolamim, Yitzror B'tzror HaChayim Et Nishmata. Adonai Hu Nalchata, V'tanuach Al Mishkavo, V'shalom, V'namar, Amen. And together, because today we're all mourners, let's recite the Kaddish together at this memorial service. Yiskadal v'yiskadash me rabbah, v'almad yivrach yirusei v'amlich malchusei, v'chaye chon v'yomei chon v'chaye dechol beis Yisrael, v'agolav v'zman pariv v'yimeru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach, v'olam li'olmei olmaya, Yisparach v'yishtabach v'yispar v'yisramam v'yisnasei, v'yishadar v'yishalev v'yishalal, shmei dekudesha b'richu. V'yela min kol birchasa v'shirasa, dushbachasa v'nechmasa, damiran b'alma v'yimru amen. Yechei shlomo rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, Hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen.
This does conclude the service here in the chapel. The family would like to invite everyone across to the other room for Shiva and a meal. And it's literally right in this building, right across the way there. So I'll ask that everyone just remain seated while the family is escorted out first so that they may get situated in the other room. Thank you. On behalf of the family, thank you.